The morning sunlight poured through the kitchen window like liquid gold. 7-year-old Ava Whitaker stood perfectly still, her small hand resting on the shoulder of a teenage boy who smelled like garbage bags in yesterday's rain. Her parents froze in the doorway, barely breathing, as their daughter's lips began to move. For 7 years, 3 months, and 14 days, those lips had never formed a single word. But now, in a voice as soft as butterfly wings, Eva whispered, "Happy." Sarah Whitaker's coffee mug slipped from her fingers. It shattered against the marble floor, but she didn't even flinch. Her husband Henry grabbed the door frame to steady himself, his briefcase dropping with a heavy thud. The homeless boy, Noah, they'd learned his name was, had tears streaming down his dirty cheeks. "Did she just—" Henry couldn't finish the sentence. His throat felt like it was closing. Can you imagine waiting 7 years to hear your child's voice? Can you picture the moment when the impossible finally happens? Sarah's legs gave out. She sank to her knees right there in the kitchen, glass crunching beneath her, and sobbed like she'd never cried in her entire life. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to where it all began. Henry Whitaker had everything money could buy. His mansion had 12 bedrooms, an indoor pool, and a garage full of cars that cost more than most people's houses. He wore suits that were hand-stitched in Italy. His watch could pay for a year of college. But none of it mattered, because every night he sat in his daughter's bedroom, reading her bedtime stories, and she never once said goodnight. "The princess lived happily ever after," Henry read, his voice cracking slightly on the last word. He closed the book and looked at Eva, who stared back with big brown eyes that seemed to hold entire universes inside them. She smiled at him, that beautiful, heartbreaking smile, but she didn't speak. Henry tucked the blanket around her shoulders. "I love you, sweetheart," he whispered, kissing her forehead. Her skin was warm and smelled like the lavender shampoo Sarah used during bath time. Eva reached up and touched his cheek. Her tiny hand was soft as silk. She patted him twice, her way of saying she loved him too. It wasn't enough. God help him, it would never be enough. Henry left the room and found Sarah standing in the hallway, her arms wrapped around herself. Her eyes were red again. He knew she'd been crying. "Dr. Peterson called," Sarah said quietly. "He wants to try a new therapy, something about music and emotional triggers." Henry felt something heavy sink in his chest. "Another one? Henry, we have to keep trying. We've tried everything." The words came out harsher than he meant them to. Henry lowered his voice. "I'm sorry. Sarah, we've spent 2 years going to specialists, speech therapists, child psychologists, neurologists. We've tried sign language, picture boards, singing therapy. Remember that woman who wanted to use dolphins?" Sarah's laugh was bitter. "How could I forget? We flew to Florida twice." They stood in silence. Downstairs, the grandfather clock chimed 9 times. Somewhere in the vast house, a door closed. "The doctors all say the same thing," Sarah whispered. "There's nothing physically wrong with her. Her vocal cords work perfectly. She can hear. She can understand. She's intelligent, more intelligent than most kids her age. Sarah's voice broke. "She just won't talk." Henry pulled his wife close. She trembled against him. "What if she never does?" Sarah asked into his chest. "What if we never hear her voice? What if she never calls me Mama? What if—" "Don't." Henry held her tighter. "Don't think like that." But he thought like that every single day. Little did they know, everything was about to change in a way they could never have predicted. The next morning was a Tuesday. Henry would remember that detail for the rest of his life. It was a Tuesday when he first saw the boy. Henry was running late for a meeting. He rushed out to his car, tie still unknotted, when he noticed someone by the garbage cans at the end of their long driveway. A teenage boy, thin as a rail, was picking through their trash. Henry's first instinct was to call security. The Whitaker estate had guards, cameras, gates, everything designed to keep people like this boy out. But then the boy found something in the trash, an old stuffed bear that Eva had thrown away last week. And the smile that spread across his face stopped Henry in his tracks. The boy held that bear like it was made of gold. He brushed off the dirt carefully, almost reverently, then tucked it into his backpack with the gentleness you'd use with a newborn baby. Something about that moment made Henry pause. The boy was black, maybe 15 or 16, with dirt under his fingernails and holes in his shoes. His jacket was 3 sizes too big and patched with duct tape. But his eyes, Henry could see them even from this distance, were kind. Henry walked down the driveway. His Italian leather shoes crunched on the gravel. The boy spun around, fear flashing across his face. He grabbed his backpack like he was ready to run. "Wait," Henry said, holding up his hands. "I'm not going to hurt you." The boy didn't run, but he didn't relax either. He stood there, tense as a coiled spring, watching Henry with wary eyes. "What's your name?" Henry asked. For a long moment, the boy didn't answer. Then, quietly, "Noah." "Noah," Henry nodded. Do you come here often? To go through our trash?" The boy's jaw tightened. Henry could see him preparing for a lecture, maybe threats to call the police. But what came out of Henry's mouth surprised both of them. "Are you hungry?" "Wait, I need to tell you something crucial before we continue. That decision, inviting Noah into his home, would change everything for the Whitaker family." But in that moment, Henry had no idea. He just saw a skinny kid who was clearly going through a rough time. Noah's eyes went wide. What?" "I asked if you're hungry," Henry repeated. "My wife always makes too much breakfast. It would just go to waste." Noah looked at Henry like he was trying to solve an impossible puzzle. Why wouldn't I?" Henry surprised himself with how much he meant it. "Come on, let's get you some food." As they walked up the driveway toward the mansion, Henry glanced at this boy who smelled like garbage and wore shoes held together with tape. And he thought about Eva, who had everything but couldn't speak. And he thought about how strange life was, how you could have all the money in the world and still be missing the one thing that mattered most. What Henry didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that this boy would give his daughter the greatest gift she'd ever received. But that revelation was still weeks away. Sarah's face when Henry walked into the kitchen with Noah was priceless. Her eyes went wide, and she almost dropped the pancake flipper. "Sarah, this is Noah," Henry said, like bringing homeless teenagers home for breakfast was something he did every day. "Noah, this is my wife, Sarah." Hello?" Sarah managed, her voice climbing an octave. She looked at Henry with an expression that clearly said, "What on earth are you doing?" Noah stood awkwardly by the door, his backpack clutched in front of him like a shield. "I can leave. I don't want to be any trouble." "Nonsense," Henry said, channeling a confidence he didn't quite feel. "Sit down. Sarah's pancakes are the best in the state." That's when Eva walked into the kitchen. She was wearing her favorite purple pajamas, the ones with stars on them. Her dark hair was messy from sleep, sticking up in about 17 different directions. She was rubbing her eyes with one small fist. Then she saw Noah and stopped dead. Eva stared at him. Noah stared back. "Hey there," Noah said softly, giving her a small wave. Eva didn't wave back. She just looked at him with those huge brown eyes, taking in every detail, his patched jacket, his worn-out shoes, the dirt on his hands. Then, for the first time in her life, Eva did something that shocked her parents to their core. She walked over to Noah, reached into her pajama pocket, and pulled out a small plastic dinosaur, her favorite toy that went everywhere with her. She held it out to him. Sarah gasped. Eva never shared that dinosaur. Never. They tried countless times to get her to show it to doctors, therapists, even her grandparents. She kept it clutched in her hand, like her life depended on it. But now, she was offering it to a stranger. Noah looked at the dinosaur, then at Eva, then at the dinosaur again. Very carefully, like he was handling something precious, he took it. "A T-Rex," Noah said, examining it closely. "This is the coolest dinosaur. You know why?" Eva tilted her head, curious. "Because even though the T-Rex was big and scary looking, some scientists think it might have been really nice to its family. It might have been a good parent who took care of its babies." Noah handed the dinosaur back to Eva. "Thanks for showing me. That's really special." Eva clutched the dinosaur to her chest and smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached all the way to her eyes. Then she sat down at the table right next to Noah, as close as she could get. Sarah looked at Henry. Henry looked at Sarah. Neither of them could quite believe what they were seeing. Can you imagine the moment when your silent child connects with someone, truly connects, for the first time? Over pancakes, Noah told them his story. His voice was quiet, almost embarrassed, but honest. He was 17. He'd been living on the streets for 8 months, ever since his grandmother died. She'd raised him after his parents passed away when he was little, a car accident on a rainy highway. When his grandmother got sick, Noah had spent every day after school at her bedside in the hospital. She held on for 3 months, Noah said, pushing his pancake around his plate. The doctor said it was a miracle. I think she was trying to stay alive until I turned 18. So I'd be legal, you know? So they wouldn't put me in the system. Sarah wiped her eyes with a napkin. But she didn't make it, Noah continued. She passed in January. I've been trying to figure things out since then. I go to school most days. Well, when I can get cleaned up enough. I hide my stuff in a locker at the bus station. And he hesitated, glancing at Eva. I collect things people throw away. Sometimes there's stuff I can sell. Sometimes there's food that's still good. And sometimes, he smiled slightly, sometimes there's a really cool stuffed bear. Eva, who had been watching Noah with complete focus, suddenly slid out of her chair. She ran from the kitchen before anyone could stop her. I'm sorry, Noah said quickly. Did I upset her? No, Henry assured him. Eva does this sometimes. She'll be back. Sure enough, 2 minutes later, Eva returned. She was carrying something behind her back, a secretive smile on her face. She walked up to Noah and revealed her treasure, a backpack, a brand new backpack with reinforced straps and multiple pockets, the expensive kind that could last for years. It was Eva's backpack. Sarah had bought it for her just last month. Eva held it out to Noah. Oh, sweetheart, no, Sarah said gently. That's yours. But Eva was insistent. She pushed the backpack into Noah's lap, then pointed at his old backpack with the duct tape and the broken zipper. The message was clear. You need this more than I do. Noah's eyes filled with tears. I can't take this. This is yours. Eva nodded firmly. Then she did something even more unexpected. She took Noah's hand and patted it twice, the same gesture she used to tell her father she loved him. Little did anyone know, this was just the beginning of something extraordinary. After breakfast, Noah tried to leave. He thanked them profusely, clutching the new backpack like it might disappear if he didn't hold on tight enough. But Eva blocked the door. She stood there in her star pajamas, arms crossed, with a determined look on her face that Henry had never seen before. Eva, honey, let Noah pass, Sarah said gently. Eva shook her head. She grabbed Noah's hand and pulled, trying to drag him toward the living room. I think she wants you to stay, Henry said, amazed. Noah looked torn. I really should go. You've all been so kind, but... Eva tugged harder on his hand. She looked up at him with those big brown eyes, and Henry watched something inside Noah crumble. Okay, Noah said softly. I can stay for a little while. The smile that broke across Eva's face could have lit up the entire city. She pulled Noah into the living room, where her books and toys were scattered across the floor. She grabbed her favorite storybook, the one about a girl who could talk to animals, and held it up to Noah. You want me to read to you? Noah asked. Eva nodded enthusiastically. They sat on the floor together. Eva curled up next to Noah like they'd known each other for years instead of an hour. Noah opened the book and began to read. But here's what made Henry's breath catch in his throat. Noah didn't just read the words, he did voices. He made sound effects. He made the story come alive in a way that Henry, with all his expensive education, had never managed to do. And Eva? Eva giggled, not a silent smile, not a nod, an actual, audible giggle that filled the room with music. Sarah grabbed Henry's arm so hard it hurt. They stood in the doorway, watching their silent daughter laugh for the first time since she was a baby. What happened next would challenge everything the Whitakers thought they knew about their daughter. Noah started coming by every day. At first, Henry wasn't sure it was a good idea. He talked to Sarah about it late one night, both of them sitting on the edge of Eva's bed, watching her sleep. What do we really know about him? Henry whispered. What if he's dangerous? Did you see Eva's face today? Sarah whispered back. She's happier than she's been in months. Years, maybe. But, Henry, Sarah looked at him with fierce determination. Our daughter laughed. For the first time since she was 2 years old, she actually laughed. If this boy can do that, I don't care if he's homeless, rich, black, white, or purple with green stripes. He's welcome in our home. So Noah became a regular visitor. He'd show up every morning, cleaned up as best he could. Sarah started leaving fresh clothes by the back door. things that were accidentally bought in Noah's size. Henry forgot to lock the pool house bathroom where Noah could shower and brush his teeth. They didn't talk about it. They just made it easier for Noah to be there. And Eva blossomed. She still didn't speak, but she started doing other things. She'd bring Noah flowers from the garden, presenting them with such ceremony that you'd think they were made of diamonds. She'd draw him pictures, stick figures that were clearly meant to be the two of them, always holding hands. One day, she brought him half of her sandwich at lunch. Then she sat there and watched until he ate every bite, making sure he had enough food. "She's taking care of me," Noah told Henry one afternoon, his voice full of wonder. "Can you believe that? This little girl who has everything is worried about me." Henry couldn't speak. His throat was too tight. But the most amazing thing happened 3 weeks after Noah first arrived. Henry was in his office trying to focus on a business call when he heard piano music. Not just any music, clumsy, simple notes, but music nonetheless. He ended his call and went to investigate. The Whitakers owned a grand piano that cost more than a luxury car. It sat in the music room, mostly ignored. Sarah had tried to get Eva interested in lessons, but Eva had refused to touch the keys. Until now. Eva was sitting on the piano bench with Noah beside her. Noah was showing her how to play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star with one finger. Eva was following along, pressing the keys with intense concentration. When she hit the wrong note, she didn't get frustrated like she usually did with new things. She just looked at Noah, who smiled and showed her again, and then, God, Henry would never forget this, Noah started to sing. His voice was rough, untrained, but honest. He sang the words to the simple song, and Eva watched him with pure joy on her face. When the song ended, Eva clapped. Real applause, loud and enthusiastic. Then she put her hands on the keys and played the song again, almost perfectly this time. Noah laughed. "You're a natural. You're going to be better than me in no time." Eva beamed at him. Henry had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on therapies, specialists, and treatments. He'd flown in experts from 5 different countries. He'd tried everything money could buy to help his daughter. But this teenage boy with nothing but kindness in his heart had done more in 3 weeks than all those professionals had done in years. Actually, let me pause here because this detail is important. Henry started watching Noah more carefully. Not suspiciously. He'd let go of those worries. But curiously. What was it about this boy that made Eva respond so differently? He figured it out one rainy Thursday afternoon. Eva had been drawing at the kitchen table when she knocked over her juice cup. Purple grape juice spread across the table, soaking her drawing and dripping onto the floor. Sarah rushed over with paper towels. "Oh, Eva, honey, it's okay. It was an accident." But Eva's face crumpled. She looked down at her ruined drawing, a picture she'd spent an hour working on, and her eyes filled with tears. Noah, who had been helping Henry fix a broken shelf, immediately knelt down next to Eva. And here's what he said. "Hey, you know what? I bet we can fix this. If we let it dry, the colors might make really cool patterns, like tie-dye. And we can draw a new picture too, maybe an even better one. What do you think?" He didn't say, "It's okay." He didn't minimize her feelings. He didn't tell her not to be upset. He just met her where she was, acknowledged that it was sad, and offered a solution without pressure. Eva wiped her eyes and nodded. They hung the juice-stained drawing on the refrigerator, and Eva looked at it with pride, like it was abstract art worth millions. That's when Henry understood. Every doctor, every therapist, every specialist had treated Eva like a problem to be solved. They'd approached her with tests, evaluations, goals, and expectations. They'd wanted her to speak because silence was abnormal, wrong, something to fix. But Noah? Noah treated Eva like a person, a complete person who didn't need fixing. He never once asked her to talk. He never pressured her or seemed disappointed when she didn't speak. He just enjoyed being with her. He listened to her silence the way most people listen to words, and somehow that made all the difference. In exactly 4 days, something would happen that would shake the Whitaker household to its core. It was a Monday morning, and Henry woke up to an empty bed. Sarah was already gone. He found her in Eva's room, sitting on the edge of their daughter's bed, crying. "Sarah? What's wrong?" She looked up at him with tear-streaked cheeks. "Nothing's wrong. Everything's... Henry, look!" She pointed to Eva's bedside table. There, propped up carefully, was a drawing. Eva had drawn a picture of 4 stick figures holding hands. The biggest 2 were clearly meant to be Henry and Sarah, the smallest was Eva, and the 4th figure, taller than Eva but shorter than the adults, had dark skin and a big smile. Under the drawing, in Eva's careful handwriting, were 4 words. My family love each. It wasn't grammatically perfect, but it was communication, real intentional communication. She's trying to tell us something, Sarah whispered. She's saying Noah is part of her family now. Henry felt his heart crack open. They'd been so focused on Eva's voice, on the words she wouldn't say, that they'd missed all the other ways she was trying to communicate. The drawings, the gestures, the gifts. She'd been talking all along. They just hadn't been listening. That afternoon, Henry did something he should have done weeks ago. He sat down with Noah while Eva was napping. I want to help you, Henry said. Not just with breakfast and a place to shower, really help you. Let me set you up with an apartment, pay for your school, give you a chance to... No. Noah's voice was firm but kind. Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Really, thank you. But I can't accept that. Why not? Noah was quiet for a moment. Because then it wouldn't be real. Eva she doesn't care that I'm homeless. She doesn't care that I wear old clothes or that I smell like garbage sometimes. She just likes me for who I am, and I like her for who she is too. If you start paying me or setting me up with stuff, then it becomes something different. It becomes charity, or a job, and that's not what this is. Then what is it? Henry asked. Noah smiled. It's friendship, real friendship, and that's worth more than any apartment. Henry realized something in that moment. This boy had more wisdom than most adults he knew. More than Henry himself. Okay, Henry said, but the offer stands. If you ever change your mind, I'll let you know, Noah promised. They shook hands. 2 people from completely different worlds, connected by their love for one special little girl. What they didn't know was that Eva was awake upstairs, listening to every word. The next morning, Eva came downstairs with a suitcase. Not a real suitcase, one of her toy ones, pink with purple flowers, but she'd packed it carefully with her pajamas, her toothbrush, her dinosaur, and 3 books. She walked up to Noah, took his hand, and pointed toward the door. Eva? Noah looked confused. Where do you want to go? Eva tugged on his hand insistently. I think, Sarah said slowly, she wants to go with you. The room went silent. Eva, sweetheart, Noah doesn't... He can't... Henry struggled to find the words. How do you explain homelessness to a 7-year-old? How do you say that her friend sleeps in abandoned buildings and bus station benches? But Eva wasn't listening. She was pulling Noah toward the door with surprising strength, her little face set with determination. Hey, Eva, wait! Noah knelt down to her level. I can't take you with me. Your home is here, with your mom and dad. They love you so much. Eva shook her head stubbornly. She pointed at Noah, then at herself. Then at the door. She wants to make sure you have somewhere safe to go, Sarah said softly. Oh, sweetheart. Eva's eyes filled with tears. She hugged Noah tight, and her small shoulders shook with silent sobs. Henry felt like someone had reached into his chest and squeezed his heart. His daughter, who rarely showed this much emotion, who kept so much locked inside, was crying because she was worried about her friend. Noah held Eva gently, one hand stroking her messy hair. It's okay, he whispered. I'm okay. I promise. I know how to take care of myself. But Eva wouldn't let go. That's when Henry made a decision. Noah, he said, I know you said no to the apartment, but what about the pool house? Everyone looked at him. It's separate from the main house, Henry continued. It has a bathroom, a small kitchen, a bed. We never use it. It's just sitting there empty. You wouldn't be taking charity. You'd be doing us a favor. Someone should use it, right? Noah started to shake his head, but Henry held up a hand. If it makes you feel better, you can work for it. God knows this place needs help. The garden's a mess. The fence needs painting. There's always something to fix. You could help out, earn your keep. What do you say? Noah looked at Eva, who had stopped crying and was watching him with hopeful eyes. I don't know, Mr. Whitaker. Call me Henry. And think about it. Not for me, not for you. For her. Eva nodded eagerly, still holding on to Noah like he might disappear if she let go. Noah looked at this little girl who had somehow claimed a piece of his heart in just a few short weeks. This girl who saw past his dirty clothes and empty pockets. This girl who had given him her favorite backpack and her most precious dinosaur. This girl who made him feel, for the first time since his grandmother died, like he belonged somewhere. Okay, Noah whispered. Okay. But I'm going to work hard. I'm going to earn it. Eva's face broke into the biggest smile Henry had ever seen. She released Noah and jumped up and down, clapping her hands in pure joy. And then, wait. Henry would replay this moment in his mind 1,000 times over the coming weeks, trying to figure out exactly what happened. Eva stopped jumping. She went perfectly still. She looked at Noah with an expression of such intensity that it made the room feel electric. She opened her mouth. Everyone held their breath, but no sound came out. Eva's face fell. She closed her mouth, and a single tear rolled down her cheek. Noah wiped it away gently. Hey, it's okay. You don't have to talk. You know that, right? I like you exactly the way you are. Eva nodded, but she looked sad in a way she'd never looked before, like she wanted something desperately but couldn't reach it. Sarah and Henry exchanged glances. They both saw it. Their daughter had tried. For the first time in her life, Eva had actually tried to speak. She wasn't just refusing. She wasn't just comfortable with silence. She wanted to talk. She just didn't know how. Little did they know, the breakthrough was closer than anyone could have imagined. The next 3 weeks were different. Noah moved into the pool house, and true to his word, he worked. He fixed broken gutters, weeded the garden, repainted the back fence. Henry insisted on paying him a fair wage for the work, and Noah, after much argument, finally accepted. But more importantly, Noah spent hours with Eva every day. They developed a routine: morning piano practice, afternoon art time, evening story hour. Noah treated every moment with Eva like it was precious. He never checked his phone, which was old and barely functional anyway. He never seemed rushed or distracted. He was fully present in a way that even Henry and Sarah, with all their love, struggled to manage. And Eva started changing. She became more expressive. Her drawings got more detailed. She started using hand gestures that were almost like a language, pointing and gesturing in complex patterns that Noah seemed to understand perfectly. One day, Henry found them in the garden. Eva was showing Noah different flowers, and Noah was making up stories about each one. See this rose? Noah said, pointing to a red one. This used to be a regular white rose, but one day, a fairy sneezed on it. Eva's shoulders shook with silent laughter. And the fairy's sneeze had been dyed red from all the strawberries she'd eaten, so now this rose is red forever. Eva touched the rose gently, then looked at Noah and shook her head, a smile playing on her lips. She was saying, "That's not true. You don't believe me?" Noah acted shocked. "Well, maybe you're right. Maybe it's red because—" He paused, looking at Eva expectantly. Eva thought hard. Then she held up her hands and made a heart shape. "Because of love?" Noah guessed. Eva nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, love. You're absolutely right," Noah said seriously. "Roses are red because they're full of love." Henry watched this interaction and felt something shift inside him. Eva was communicating, maybe not with words, but with intention, with thought, with emotion. She was having a real conversation. Why hadn't he seen this before? They had no idea that in just 4 more days, everything would change forever. On Saturday evening, Sarah sat Eva down for the talk. Not that talk. Eva was only 7. But the talk about what speaking meant, about how everyone was different, about how it was okay if Eva never talked, but it was also okay if she wanted to try. Eva listened carefully to every word. When Sarah finished, Eva picked up a marker and her drawing pad. She drew a picture of a girl with her mouth covered by hands. Then she drew the same girl with her hands removed, but her mouth was stitched shut. The message was clear. "I'm not covering my mouth by choice. Something else is stopping me." "What's stopping you, sweetheart?" Sarah asked gently. "Are you afraid?" Eva nodded. "Afraid of what?" Eva drew another picture. This one showed a girl saying something, represented by a speech bubble, and the people around her looking angry or sad. "You're afraid that if you talk, people will be upset?" Sarah tried to understand. Eva shook her head. She pointed to the speech bubble, then to the angry faces, then to herself. Then she drew a big X over the whole picture. She was afraid that her words would be wrong, that whatever she said wouldn't be good enough. That after 7 years of silence, everyone expected her first words to be perfect, profound, important. The pressure was too much. Sarah felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. Oh, Eva, baby, no, you don't have to say anything perfect. You don't have to say anything at all. But if you want to speak, if you ever want to, any word you say will be the most beautiful word we've ever heard. Eva looked at her mother with desperate hope in her eyes, hope mixed with terror. What if we practice? Sarah suggested. Just you and me, no pressure, no expectations, just trying out what it feels like to make sounds, okay? Eva considered this for a long moment. Then slowly, she nodded. They spent the next hour in Eva's bedroom. Sarah made silly sounds, squeaks, whistles, humming. Eva watched and smiled, but didn't join in. Your turn, Sarah encouraged gently. Eva opened her mouth. Her throat moved, but nothing came out. She tried again. Still nothing. Tears of frustration filled Eva's eyes. It's okay, Sarah soothed. It's okay. We can try again tomorrow, or the next day, or never. Whatever you want. But Eva shook her head stubbornly. She touched her throat, then made a frustrated gesture. She wanted to speak. She just couldn't. That night, Henry couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Eva, about Noah, about everything. Around midnight, he got up and went to the pool house. He knocked softly. Noah answered in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Mr. Whitaker, is everything okay? Can we talk? Henry asked. They sat on the small porch of the pool house. The night was cool, and stars filled the sky like someone had thrown diamonds across black velvet. I need to ask you something, Henry said. And I need you to be honest. Always, Noah promised. Do you think Eva will ever talk? Noah was quiet for a long time. I don't know, he finally said. But, Mr. Whitaker, Henry, does it matter? What do you mean? Eva is amazing. She's kind, she's smart, she's funny. She has so much to say, even without words. She's not broken, she's just Eva. And Eva is perfect exactly as she is. But wouldn't it be better if... Better for who? Noah interrupted gently. Better for her, or better for everyone else? Henry opened his mouth, then closed it. He didn't have an answer. My grandmother used to say something, Noah continued. She said people spend so much time trying to fix what's different that they forget to appreciate what's beautiful. Eva is beautiful. Her silence is part of who she is. Maybe she'll speak someday. Maybe she won't. But either way, she deserves to be loved for exactly who she is right now. Henry felt tears on his cheeks. When had he started crying? You're right, he whispered. God help me, you're right. I've been so focused on what she can't do that I haven't been celebrating everything she can do. It's not too late, Noah said. It's never too late to start. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars. Then Henry said something he should have said weeks ago. Thank you for everything you've done for Eva, for our family. She's done more for me than I've done for her, Noah replied. She gave me a home, a family, a reason to believe in good things again. And then, on a Tuesday morning, exactly 6 months after Noah first appeared at their garbage cans, the miracle happened. The morning started like any other. Noah came to the main house for breakfast. Sarah had made pancakes. It had become their tradition. Eva was already at the table in her purple pajamas, her hair sticking up in all directions. But something was different about Eva that morning. She seemed nervous, excited. She kept looking at Noah and then looking away, like she had a secret she was desperate to share. Everything okay, sweetheart? Henry asked. Eva nodded, but her hands were shaking slightly. They ate breakfast. Noah told a funny story about a squirrel he'd seen stealing someone's lunch in the park. Eva smiled, but she wasn't really listening. She was working up to something. Henry could feel it. Sarah could feel it. The air in the kitchen felt electric, like right before a thunderstorm. Noah finished his story and took a sip of orange juice. That's when Eva stood up. She walked around the table to where Noah sat. She put her small hand on his shoulder. Noah turned to look at her, smiling. Hey, Eva. What's up? Eva took a deep breath. You could see her gathering every ounce of courage in her small body. Her hand tightened on Noah's shoulder. And then, her lips moved. The sound that came out was barely louder than a whisper, rough and unpracticed, like a voice that had been asleep for 7 years and was just now waking up. But it was there. It was real. It was a word. Happy. For exactly 7 seconds, nobody moved. Sarah was on her knees in a pile of broken glass and spilled coffee. Henry stood frozen, one hand still reaching for his briefcase that lay on the floor. Noah had tears streaming down his face, his mouth open in shock. And Eva, tiny 7-year-old Eva, who hadn't spoken a single word in her entire life, was smiling. Then the room exploded into motion. Sarah scrambled to her feet, ignoring the glass that crunched under her shoes. She rushed to Eva and dropped down, pulling her daughter into the tightest hug of her life. "You spoke!" Sarah sobbed into Eva's hair. "Oh my God, baby, you spoke!" Henry was there a second later, wrapping his arms around both of them. His whole body was shaking. "Say it again," he begged. "Please, sweetheart, say it again." Eva pulled back from her parents. She looked up at them with those wise brown eyes, and everyone held their breath, waiting, hoping, praying. But Eva just smiled and shook her head. One word. That was all she had for today. Can you imagine the mix of joy and heartbreak in that moment? The miracle of hearing your child's voice, but not knowing if you'd ever hear it again? "It's okay," Noah said quickly, sensing the tension building. "That was amazing, Eva. Happy is a perfect first word, the best first word ever." Eva turned to Noah and nodded. Then she did something that made Henry's throat tighten. She reached up and wiped the tears from Noah's cheeks with her tiny hands. "I'm not sad," Noah said, laughing through his tears. "These are happy tears, because I am happy. So happy." Eva patted his cheek twice. "I know. Me too." Sarah couldn't stop touching Eva, like she needed physical proof that this was real. Her hands smoothed Eva's messy hair, touched her shoulders, held her small hands. "We need to call Dr. Peterson," Sarah said suddenly, "and Dr. Miranda. They need to know. They'll want to see her, run tests, figure out what triggered this." "No." Henry's voice was firm. "Not yet." Sarah stared at her husband. "What do you mean, not yet? Henry, this is what we've been waiting for." "Exactly. We've been waiting for it. The doctors, the therapists, everyone. They've all been waiting for Eva to perform, to prove something, to be fixed." Henry knelt down next to his daughter. "But Eva doesn't need to be fixed. She just needed to be ready. And she was ready today on her terms when she wanted to be. Right, sweetheart?" Eva nodded, relief flooding her face. "So, no doctors," Henry continued. "No tests, no pressure. We just let her be. And if she wants to speak again, she will. And if she doesn't, that's okay too." Sarah opened her mouth to argue. Then she looked at Eva, at her daughter's relaxed shoulders, her peaceful expression, and closed it again. "Okay," Sarah whispered. "You're right. No pressure." Eva hugged her father tight. Little did they know, the journey ahead would test them in ways they never expected. The rest of that Tuesday was surreal. Eva went about her day like normal. She played with her toys. She drew pictures. She had her usual lunch of peanut butter and jelly, cut into triangles, never squares. She was very particular about that. The only difference was that Henry, Sarah, and Noah kept staring at her, like she might turn into a butterfly and fly away. Every time Eva opened her mouth, even just to yawn or drink water, everyone tensed up, waiting. But Eva didn't speak again. By dinner time, Henry could see the disappointment starting to creep into Sarah's face. That old, familiar sadness that had lived there for 7 years. "She spoke once," Henry reminded his wife quietly while Eva was in the other room. "That's more than she's done in 7 years. It's a miracle, Sarah. Don't lose sight of that." "But what if it was just once? What if that's all?" "Then it was a gift," Noah interrupted. He'd been invited to stay for dinner, which was becoming more and more common. One perfect word that she chose to give us. How many people get to hear something that special? Sarah wiped her eyes. "You're right. I'm sorry, I want so badly to hear her voice again." "I know," Noah said gently. "But wanting it won't make it happen. Eva will speak when Eva is ready." What none of them realized was that Eva was listening from around the corner, taking in every word. That night, Henry read Eva her bedtime story. But his voice kept cracking, and he had to stop several times to collect himself. When he finished, he closed the book and just looked at his daughter. "I'm so proud of you," he whispered. "So incredibly proud. Not because you spoke, although that was amazing, but because you're brave. You tried something scary today. That takes real courage." Eva smiled at him. Then she grabbed her drawing pad from the nightstand and drew a quick picture. A stick figure, her, with a speech bubble. Inside the bubble were question marks. "You're wondering if you'll talk again," Henry guessed. Eva nodded. "Do you want to?" Another nod, but this one was slower, uncertain. "It's okay to be scared," Henry said. "New things are scary. But you know what? You don't have to do anything you're not ready for. And whenever you are ready, tomorrow, next week, next year, or never, we'll still love you exactly the same. Okay?" Eva hugged him so tight he could barely breathe. After he tucked her in and turned off the light, Henry stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching his daughter's small form under the covers. 7 years of silence, broken by one word: happy. Of all the words she could have chosen, Mama, Daddy, help, please, she'd chosen that one, because of Noah. Henry found himself walking to the pool house again. It was becoming a habit, these late-night conversations with a teenage boy who somehow understood his daughter better than anyone else. Noah was sitting on the porch steps looking up at the stars. "She drew me a picture," Henry said, sitting down next to him, "asking if she'll speak again." "What did you tell her?" "That it's up to her. No pressure." "Good." Noah was quiet for a moment. "Can I tell you something, Henry? Something I noticed?" "Of course." "Eva's been trying to tell you all for years. Through her drawings, her gestures, her gifts, she's been communicating this whole time. You just—" Noah hesitated. "We weren't listening," Henry finished. "Not really. We were so focused on the one way she wasn't communicating that we missed all the ways she was." "Yeah," Noah smiled sadly. "My grandmother used to say that people have lots of languages. Some use words, some use art, some use music, some use silence. They're all valid. Your grandmother sounds like she was a very wise woman." "She was." Noah's voice went soft. "I miss her every day." They sat in comfortable silence, two people from completely different worlds, united by their love for one special little girl. In exactly 3 days, something would happen that would challenge everything they'd learned. Wednesday passed. No words. Thursday passed. No words. By Friday, Sarah was getting anxious again. She tried to hide it, but Henry could see it in the way she watched Eva constantly, in the way she jumped every time Eva made any sound at all. "Sarah," Henry said gently, "you're putting pressure on her without meaning to." "I'm not. I haven't said anything." "You don't have to. She can feel it." Sarah knew he was right. She took a deep breath and tried to relax, but it was so hard. She'd heard her daughter's voice, truly heard it for the first time, and now that she knew what it sounded like, the silence felt even louder. That afternoon, while Eva was napping, Sarah did something she hadn't done in months. She prayed, not for Eva to speak, not for a miracle cure, not for anything to change. She prayed for patience, for acceptance, for the strength to love her daughter exactly as she was, without needing her to be anything different. When she opened her eyes, she felt lighter somehow, more at peace. That's when she heard it. A sound from upstairs. A voice. Sarah's heart nearly stopped. She raced up the stairs, taking them 2 at a time. Eva's bedroom door was cracked open. Inside, Eva sat on her bed with Noah. They were playing with her dolls, acting out some kind of story. And Eva was making sounds. Not words, not yet, but sounds. Humming, laughing, little noises of surprise and delight. Her mouth was open. Her throat was working. She was using her voice, even if she wasn't forming words yet. Noah caught sight of Sarah in the doorway and smiled. "We're having a tea party," he explained. "Eva's dolls are very opinionated about how much sugar should go in the tea." Eva giggled, that beautiful musical sound, and nodded enthusiastically. Sarah backed away quietly, her hand over her mouth to hold in the sob of joy trying to escape. Her daughter was finding her voice, not all at once, not on anyone's schedule, but slowly, steadily, in her own time. Actually, let me pause here because what happened next changed everything. On Saturday morning, Eva woke up with a plan. Henry could see it in her face at breakfast, that look of determined concentration that meant she was working up to something. She ate her cereal very slowly, watching Noah the whole time. Noah, who was oblivious, was telling a story about a cat he'd seen chasing a laser pointer in a store window. And the cat kept jumping higher and higher, trying to catch the red dot, and the people inside the store were laughing. And Noah. Everyone froze. The word was clearer than happy had been. Still soft, still a little rough, but definitely, unmistakably a word. Noah stared at Eva. Did you just, Noah? Eva said again. This time a smile spread across her face. Noah, Noah, Noah. She said his name 4 times, like she was testing it out, like she was tasting how it felt on her tongue. Noah burst into tears. Not quiet tears this time, big gasping sobs that shook his whole body. He put his head in his hands and cried like a child. Eva got up from her chair and hugged him. She patted his back the way adults do when comforting someone. It's okay, she whispered. Those were words 3 and 4. It's okay. And then, as if a dam had broken, more words came tumbling out. Noah. Happy. Home. Love. 4 words. Then 5. Then 6. Mama. Daddy. Family. Stars. Pancakes. Garden. They weren't sentences. They were just words, strung together like pearls on a necklace. But each one was a treasure. Sarah was crying. Henry was crying. Noah was crying. Even Eva had tears on her cheeks, but she was smiling through them. She was talking, actually truly talking. What would you have done in that moment? Can you imagine the overwhelming joy? But here's the thing about miracles. They don't fix everything instantly. Over the next week, Eva spoke more, but it was slow. She'd go hours without saying anything, then suddenly say a word or two. She spoke more to Noah than to her parents. She never spoke more than a few words at a time, and she struggled. Henry watched one afternoon as Eva tried to tell Sarah something about her drawing. She opened her mouth and you could see her trying to form the words. Her face scrunched up in concentration. Her hands moved like she was trying to pull the words out physically. B-b-b-b. Eva's frustration was clear. Bird? Sarah guessed. Blue? Book? Eva shook her head, tears of frustration welling up. She pointed at her drawing more urgently. Take your time, sweetheart, Sarah said gently. There's no rush. But Eva was rushing. Now that she'd started talking, she wanted to say everything all at once. 7 years of stored-up words were trying to come out at the same time, and they got jammed up in her throat like traffic in a tunnel. Bear! Eva finally shouted. Then she collapsed back on her bed, exhausted from the effort. Bear, Sarah repeated, looking at the drawing. Sure enough, there was a small bear in the corner. Yes, you drew a bear. Good job, Eva. But Eva wasn't celebrating. She looked defeated, like speaking was harder than she'd thought it would be. Little did anyone know, this struggle would lead to the most important lesson of all. That night, Eva had a nightmare. Henry heard her crying and rushed to her room. He found her sitting up in bed, sobbing silently, the way she'd cried for 7 years, with no sound except sharp little gasps for breath. Eva, baby, what's wrong? She looked at him with such despair that it broke his heart. I can't, she whispered. Can't talk, write. More tears. She was crying because she couldn't express herself well enough to explain why she was crying. The irony was cruel. Henry pulled her close. Listen to me, Eva. Listen carefully. You are talking perfectly. Every single word you say is perfect. Eva shook her head against his chest. Yes, Henry insisted. You know why? Because they're your words. You chose them. You're brave enough to say them. That makes them perfect, even if they come out slowly or if you have to try a few times. Okay? Eva sniffled. Hard. I know it's hard. Learning new things is always hard. But you know what? You're doing it. You're trying. And that's what matters. Noah, Eva said, looking toward the door. You want Noah? She nodded. Henry smiled. Of course she wanted Noah. Noah always knew what to say. 5 minutes later, Noah was in Eva's room, still in his sleep clothes, his hair sticking up in all directions. He sat on the edge of her bed and took her small hand in his. Hey, he said softly, I heard you're having a tough night. Eva nodded miserably. Then, in halting words, she explained, I thought talking would be easy, but it's so hard. Each word was an effort. Each pause was filled with frustration, but Noah listened to every single one like it was poetry. "You know what I think?" Noah said when she finished. "I think you're incredibly brave. Do you know how scary it is to try something new, especially something you've never done before? Most people won't even try things that scare them, but you're doing it anyway." "Slow," Eva whispered. "So? Slow is okay. Fast isn't always better. You know what happens when you rush through things? You miss stuff. But when you go slow, you can really appreciate every moment, every word. But everyone wants... What does everyone want?" Noah asked gently. Eva's face crumpled. "Wants me to talk more." And there it was, the real problem. Eva had started speaking, but now she felt the pressure of expectations. Everyone was so excited, so encouraging, so eager for more words, that it felt like she was performing, like she had to speak to make everyone happy. The very thing Noah had warned about was happening. This moment would determine everything that came next. Noah looked at Eva seriously. "Can I tell you a secret?" She nodded. "I don't want you to talk more. I want you to be happy. Those are two different things." Eva tilted her head, confused. "When you said happy on Tuesday, that was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. Not because you were talking, but because you were sharing something true with me. You were happy, and you wanted me to know it. That's what made it special." Noah squeezed her hand gently. "But if you talk just because you think people expect it, it won't be special anymore. It'll just be noise, words without meaning. So here's what I want you to do. Only speak when you really want to. When you have something you really need to say. Not because anyone else wants you to, just because you want to, okay?" "Okay," Eva whispered. Then, after a pause, "Thank you." "For what?" "For understanding. Always," Noah promised. After Noah left, Eva curled up under her covers with a peaceful expression Henry hadn't seen in days. Henry stood in the hallway with Sarah, both of them having heard the entire conversation. "He's right," Sarah said quietly. "We've been doing it again, putting pressure on her without meaning to. We were so excited that she started talking that we forgot the most important thing." "What's that?" Henry asked. "That Eva is more than her voice, and she always will be. In exactly 2 days, the family would face their biggest test yet." On Monday, Eva's grandparents came to visit. Henry's parents, Richard and Martha Whitaker, were wealthy, proper, and had very specific ideas about how things should be. They'd never quite understood Eva's silence. They'd made it clear, in subtle ways, that they thought Henry and Sarah weren't trying hard enough to fix the problem. Henry had been dreading this visit for weeks. "Remember," he told Eva over breakfast, "you don't have to talk to Grandma and Grandpa if you don't want to, okay?" Eva nodded, but there was tension in her small shoulders. Noah, sensing this, squeezed her hand under the table. "Want me to make myself scarce today?" he asked Henry. "Absolutely not," Henry said firmly. "You're part of this family. You stay." When Richard and Martha arrived, they swept into the house like they owned it. Martha was in a cream-colored suit with pearls. Richard wore a three-piece suit despite it being a casual Monday. "Henry! Sarah!" Martha air-kissed her daughter-in-law's cheeks. "Where's our darling Eva?" Eva was hiding behind Henry's leg. "Come out, child," Richard said. "Let's see you." Eva peeked around her father. She gave a small wave. "Still not speaking, I see," Martha said, her voice full of disapproval disguised as concern. "Have you tried that specialist I sent you? The one from Switzerland?" "Actually, Mother," Henry began, but Eva cut him off. She stepped out from behind Henry, stood up straight, and looked her grandmother right in the eye. "Hello, Grandma." Martha's jaw dropped. Richard's eyes went wide. Did she just..." Martha stammered. "Yes," Sarah said, trying not to smile at her mother-in-law's shock. "Eva's been speaking for about a week now." "Well," Martha recovered her composure. "It's about time. See, Richard? I told you she just needed proper motivation. Now, Eva, tell Grandma what you've been doing. Tell me about school, your friends, your..." "No," Eva said simply. The room went silent. Excuse me? Martha's voice got cold. Eva, Henry warned gently. That's not... It's okay, Daddy. Eva's voice was small but determined. She looked at her grandmother again. I don't want to talk right now. Maybe later. Then she walked over to Noah and took his hand. Can we go to the garden? Sure, Noah said, impressed and a little shocked by Eva's boldness. They left, leaving the adults in stunned silence. Well, I never. Martha turned to Henry, her face red. That is the most disrespectful. That, Henry interrupted, is my daughter speaking her truth. She doesn't want to talk right now, and that's okay. It most certainly is not okay. We came all this way to see her, and she said hello. She acknowledged you. And then she set a boundary. I'm proud of her. Richard harumphed. In my day, children didn't set boundaries with their elders. Well, Dad, this isn't your day. Henry stood his ground. Ava has spent 7 years silent. If she's finally finding her voice, I'm not going to tell her she can only use it in ways that make other people comfortable. She gets to decide when and how she speaks. Martha and Richard looked at each other, clearly not used to their son standing up to them like this. Perhaps, Martha said icily, we should have lunch in the city instead. Clearly we're not wanted here. Mother, that's not... But they were already leaving, gathering their coats and bags with offended dignity. After they left, Sarah came up behind Henry and wrapped her arms around him. That was hard, she said. Yeah. Henry watched his parents' car disappear down the driveway. But necessary. What they found in the garden would change everything once more. Henry and Sarah found Noah and Eva sitting by the rose bushes. Eva was crying, but quietly. Not with the silent sobs of before. She was actually making sounds. Sniffles and hiccups and soft whimpers. I was mean, Eva said between sobs. To Grandma. No, you weren't, Noah assured her. You were honest. But she's sad now. Maybe, Noah acknowledged. But Eva, listen. You can't make everyone happy all the time, and you definitely can't make yourself unhappy just to make someone else happy. That's not how it works. But Daddy's parents... Henry knelt down next to his daughter. Ava, sweetheart, look at me. She did, her eyes red and puffy. I would rather have you honest and true to yourself than polite and miserable. Do you understand? I don't care if you upset my parents. I care that you're okay. Really? Eva whispered. Really, really. Henry pulled her into a hug. You did the right thing. You knew you weren't ready to talk more, so you said so. That takes courage. It was scary. I know, but you did it anyway. That's what bravery is, being scared and doing the hard thing anyway. Eva hugged him tighter. Then she pulled back and looked at both her parents with her wise, old soul eyes. I love you, she said clearly. No hesitation, no struggle. And then, as if those words had unlocked something inside her, she kept going. I love both of you so much. And I love Noah. And I'm sorry. It took me so long to say it out loud, but I was always saying it in my way. You just had to listen. Sarah was crying again. Happy tears this time. We hear you, baby. We always heard you. We just didn't realize it until recently. I'm still scared, Eva admitted. Scared of talking. Scared of saying the wrong thing. Everyone feels that way sometimes, Sarah said. But here's a secret. There's no wrong thing. As long as you're speaking from your heart, it's always right. Eva thought about this. Then she smiled, that gorgeous sunshine smile that lit up the world. Okay, she said. I'll try. And over the next 6 weeks, Eva did more than try. She soared. The words came faster after that day, not all at once. Eva still had days where she barely spoke at all, but she also had days where she chattered non-stop, making up for lost time. She told Noah stories about the dream she'd had but could never describe before. She asked her mother a million questions about everything from why the sky was blue to where babies came from. Sarah wasn't quite prepared for that one. She sang, badly and off-key, but with such joy that it didn't matter. She argued with her father about bedtime, which Henry secretly loved, even though it meant 20 extra minutes of negotiation every night. She laughed out loud at jokes and movies and silly things Noah did. But most importantly, she was happy. Really, truly happy. One evening, about 2 months after that first word, Henry found Eva and Noah in the living room. They were playing a game, some complicated thing involving dolls, stuffed animals, and an elaborate story Noah was making up as they went along. And then the dragon said. Noah paused, looking at Eva. "What do you think the dragon said?" Eva thought hard. Then, in a deep, growly voice, "I'm not really scary. I'm just misunderstood. I just want friends." Noah laughed. "Perfect. Yes, the misunderstood dragon who wants friends. And what does the princess say?" "The princess says," Eva switched to a high, squeaky voice, "let's be friends. I'll teach you to bake cookies." They both dissolved into giggles. Henry watched from the doorway, his heart so full it felt like it might burst. This was what he'd wanted all along. Not just words, not just a voice, joy, connection, his daughter being fully, completely herself. But there was one more surprise waiting, one final gift. 3 months after Eva spoke her first word, the Whitakers held a small celebration. Just family. Henry, Sarah, Eva, and Noah, who was family in every way that mattered. They had a fancy dinner, Eva's favorite foods, which turned out to be mac and cheese, chicken nuggets, and surprisingly, broccoli. "I like the little trees," she'd explained. After dinner, Eva stood up. She was wearing her favorite purple dress with stars on it. She held a piece of paper in her hands, something she'd written earlier that day. "I want to read something," she announced. Everyone went quiet. Eva unfolded the paper. Her hands were shaking slightly, but her voice was steady. "For 7 years, I was silent, but I was never empty. I had so much to say, so many thoughts and feelings and words. They were all inside me, waiting. Everyone thought I was broken, but I wasn't broken. I was just waiting for someone who would listen to my silence, someone who would love me without needing me to change. Noah taught me that my voice was a gift, not a requirement, not a way to prove I was okay. Just a gift I could give when I was ready. Mama and Daddy, you loved me, even when I was silent. That made me feel safe, enough to try speaking. Thank you for being patient, for never giving up, for loving all of me. And Noah, Eva's voice cracked with emotion, you saved me. Not by making me talk, but by showing me that I was already whole, already enough, already worth loving. So today, I want to say thank you. Thank you for listening to my silence. And now, thank you for listening to my voice. Both are part of me. Both are real. By the time she finished, there wasn't a dry eye at the table. Eva folded her paper carefully and sat down. Then she looked around at her family, her crying mother, her proud father, her best friend who had tears streaming down his face, and smiled. "I'm happy," she said simply, "really, really happy." Eva Whitaker was 8 years old, and she was talking up a storm. She still had quiet days. Days when she preferred to draw or gesture or just be silent. And that was okay, because her family had learned that silence wasn't something to fix. It was just another way of being. But she also had loud days. Days when she told elaborate stories, sang made-up songs, and asked so many questions that Henry and Sarah's heads spun. Noah was still living in the pool house. He'd graduated high school, top of his class thanks to the stable home environment and the support of the Whitakers. He was starting college in the fall, planning to study education. "I want to be a teacher," he'd told Henry, "for kids who are different, who don't fit in, who need someone to see them for who they really are." "You'll be amazing," Henry had said, and he meant it. One Saturday morning, Henry found Eva in the garden, talking to the roses, actually talking to them, having a full conversation. "You're looking very beautiful today," Eva told a red rose. "Did you do something different with your petals?" Henry smiled. "Who are you talking to?" "The roses," Eva said matter-of-factly. "They're good listeners." "Like Noah?" "Like Noah," Eva agreed. She looked at her father. "Daddy, can I tell you something?" "Always. I think, for a long time, I was scared that if I talked, you would stop loving me." Henry's heart broke. "Why would you think that?" "Because everyone wanted me to talk so badly. I thought maybe you loved the idea of me talking more than you loved me." "Oh, Eva," Henry pulled her close. "I loved you before you spoke. I loved you while you were silent. And I love you now that you're talking. My love for you has nothing to do with words. It has everything to do with you, exactly as you are." Eva hugged him tight. "I know that now, but I wish I'd known it sooner." "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." They sat together in the garden, surrounded by roses and sunshine. Eva rested her head on her father's shoulder. "Daddy?" "Yeah? I'm glad. I waited. I'm glad. I didn't talk until I was ready. Because when I finally did, I had something important to say." "What was that?" "Happy." Eva smiled. "That was the most important word. Because it was true." Henry kissed the top of her head. "You're right. It was perfect." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. And this time the silence didn't feel empty or wrong. It felt peaceful, full of love and understanding and acceptance. Then Eva broke the silence with the question she'd been asking constantly for the past few months. "Daddy, can you tell me again about the day I spoke?" And Henry did. He told her about the kitchen, the pancakes, the moment her hand touched Noah's shoulder. He told her about Sarah's broken coffee mug and his dropped briefcase. He told her about Noah's tears and that one perfect word. Eva listened with joy on her face, like it was the best story she'd ever heard. Because it was. It was the story of how a silent girl found her voice, not because someone forced her or fixed her or made her into something she wasn't, but because someone, a teenage boy who had nothing but kindness to give, loved her exactly as she was. And sometimes that's all any of us need. Not to be changed, not to be fixed, not to be something we're not. Just to be loved, just to be seen, just to be heard, whether we're speaking or silent, just to be enough. The end. A final note. Ava's story reminds us that every person has their own journey. Some people speak easily, some struggle, some choose silence, and all of these paths are valid. The greatest gift we can give someone isn't pressure to be normal, it's the safety to be themselves. Because in the end, we're all looking for the same thing, to be loved for who we truly are, not who others think we should be. And that kind of love, that kind of acceptance, that's the real miracle.